I want to switch now to physical exercise. How important is physical activity in reducing the risk for cancer?
Yeah, I can jump in here. The link between physical inactivity and cancer is now overwhelming. In fact, the link between physical inactivity and all non-communicable diseases is overwhelming. And it is estimated now that physical inactivity is responsible for as many deaths in our world as smoking. Physical inactivity, of course, is directly linked with obesity, but even independent of that, being physically active, so focusing more on the positive, triggers many different processes in the body that will decrease the probability that these cells that have some abnormalities will actually become a cancer. And we're discussing these topics of physical inactivity, and we'll talk briefly about stress and social support, somewhat in isolation. But there is tremendous evidence now that, in particular, there's synergy between physical activity and healthy diet. And the American Cancer Society, the American Institute for Cancer Research, the National Cancer Institutes have guidelines specifically for physical activity and diet that we've just described, the dietary guidelines. If you add the physical activity guidelines, which is a minimum of 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity 5 to 6 days a week, that when you combine those two together, for overall cancer risk, you're reducing it by a minimum of 20%, if not more. And that, again, is independent of obesity, that there's this synergy that's going to be taking place. The most recent evidence, which is a little bit more challenging for us as a society, is that independent of how physically active you are, your sedentary behavior is a risk factor for all-cause mortality. And when we look at cancer, the evidence is still there. So that means that independent of how physically active you are, the more sedentary you are throughout the day, the increase your risk of earlier death. So it's not just about that 30 minutes a day of physical activity, or even at the extreme when somebody goes and they exercise an hour and then they sit the rest of the day. Yes, it's better that you exercise that hour, but it would be ideal if you also don't sit the rest of the day and literally just stand and be more active throughout the day.
Thank you. Dr. Christiani?
There's a bit of a joke among our preventive medicine residents and students. They say the couch is the new cigarette.
Right. Couch is the new cigarette. So would you say that if you're a student, you have to sit through lectures, et cetera? Would it be, you have to sit here right now?
Well, they don't listen. I mean, that's it.
It's useful to get up and stretch, take a walk to the restroom, take a walk around the block if you're in a work setting. Is that a good strategy?
So,
you go.
yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I think movement is really important, and again, one of the things we just went through a massive snowfall in this little region, and it was remarkable. No sidewalks were shoveled out, so people who actually wanted to walk from point A to point B couldn't do it for a week and a half because, as a society, we've become to that point where it used to be people would shovel their sidewalks so you would actually be able to transport. So this is something that, the only thing on exercise that I would say is that I mean, I have kids who are in their 20s and they over-exercise. They do a lot of exercises that are going to cause a lot of knee problems and elbow problems and shoulder problems, and trying to get people to do exercise that is appropriate over the course of lifetime is something that I think it's an education that we haven't done particularly well. We sort of have too many people out jogging when they probably should be figuring out other ways that they could integrate in lifetime activities so they don't develop injury.
Yes.
The point on the sort of sitting all day in the office or classroom, there are actually some randomized trials that look at blood sugars in people who have lunch and then sit for 4 hours in the afternoon versus getting up every half hour. And the group who were forced to get up every half hour actually have better blood sugar through the afternoon. So yeah, does your workplace let you get up and walk to the bathroom every half hour, or is it safe to walk outside, whatever? But again, there's this, we are in part limited by the way we've designed our cities, our buildings, and so forth. But walk up and down a flight of stairs every half hour and you'll be a lot better off at the end of the day.
Thank you. And so now we're all more aware of how we can build physical activity into our work day or our study day, whatever that may be. You know, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Park your car a little farther away from your destination so you're forced to walk a little bit more. If you're taking the bus or a train, same thing. Get off a stop a little early and walk a little more. You'll be better off for it.
I would just add, most importantly, because of how we lead our lives in most businesses and certainly in schools, create a standing desk. And that can be literally a box that you put your laptop on, or you drop the $30 on Amazon and you buy a laptop desk that allows you to have your laptop at different heights and you can stand. I mean, literally just standing. It's better to stand for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and then sit the minority of your day. And then you would avoid these repetitive injuries of exercising for an hour straight on cement. If you just incorporate physical activity throughout your day, then you'll actually be more productive.